Hello everyone. In this second video, we will cover the dialog window and see the text, the interaction system, and the scene logs. Every time a player comes into a scene, the story will start from this starter cell. To add a text, we need to add an instruction to the starter point by selecting the plus available here. You can also use the shortcut Ctrl+Q to add a cell. Next, select Display Text in the inspector. The inspector presents two inputs. The bottom part represents the text that will be displayed to the player. On the top is the title of the cell. It is only used by you, the creator, to organize your content so it can be whatever you want as title. Let's write a text that will be displayed to the player. Now let's debug it. As you can see, the text is correctly displayed, and once we finished it, it becomes possible to join the park. This is made possible because we still have the connection from the dormitory to the park that we created during the previous video. If you add another text to the former one, you will see it displayed right after the other. And only there will you be allowed to leave to the park. We now have our first text. We will add some interaction in the bedroom. Before leaving, we will propose a treasure hunt for the player, because the character will not find her keys to lock the door. We will use the inspector to create a new interaction. As you can see, we have different options and the text we will display. You can also see a new cell that has been created automatically here. Let's first write our first interaction. This will be displayed to the player as an option after the text finishes. Our text is correctly displayed. Nevertheless, it is still possible to move outside. We can unlock the access to the park by selecting the scene and changing the path in the inspector. Since there is no place to go to, the interaction is the only thing displayed. We can add more possibilities to check by adding more interactions. As you can see, arrows represent the different paths the player can take from the text to the interaction we have here. We commonly call them road. If the player selects an option, it will take the red arrow. We want our player to find the keys on the desk, otherwise we'll tell him the keys are not there. Since we will repeat the same text for the door and the floor option, we will remove the cell connected to the door by proceeding like this. Next, we connect look at the door to not here cell. You have two different ways to connect. The simple arrow represents a normal arrow to be executed after the instruction. This is what we used when passing from a text to another. What we want here is a condition arrow, a red arrow. We can select it here, and next we bind it to the not here cell. After the character did not find her key, we will propose the player to try something else. So we connect not here cell to the where cell, and we use a blue arrow for that. This will avoid any dead-end path for the player, as it will be given another possibility to try. Once we found the keys, we will unlock the access to the park scene. This can be made through another cell, and Manage a Lock option in the inspector. The Manage a Lock type of cell allows you to change the ability for the player to move from the scene to another. We want to change the connection from the dormitory to the park, so we make sure the scene of origin is a dormitory and the target link is to the park. We give the new unlocked status to allow the passage from the scene to the other. As you can see, it is now possible to move to the park. Before we manage the end of the episode into the park, let's get back to the different options you have when selecting an interaction cell. 3 different inputs are present. The first one corresponds to the cost of the interaction. You can choose either free if it is just an answer in a dialogue, 20 crystals if it is to start a new dialogue, 5 crystals if it's an interaction. We will consider all of them being just simple interaction which cost 5 crystals. As a creator, you are not forced to select these options as a strict rule. If your player only asks one question to a character, you may choose to set the dialogue for free, or to be 5 crystals only. Under is the forced option. It could have been an alternative to the lock we have made before. A false dialogue is something where no move option will be displayed to the player, even if some connections are unlocked from a scene. You can try it by disabling the lock option to the dormitory and give any of these 3 actions the lock option. I personally prefer setting always the first as forced. You can choose any of them, however, it doesn't matter. And next, we also remove this red cell because we have no use of it now. The last option is to limit the interaction to people who activated the not safe for work option. You will need it to restrain access to violent or mature content in your stories. If you proceed like this, the option will not be considered for the player who did not activate the option. Now let's get back to the park. Since we have nothing in the dialog window, the player will be given the opportunity to get back to the dormitory. In this case, the story would repeat, and this is not something we want. We thus remove the connection. We also add text to tell the player he has been too late to join his friends. And after this, we add the end of the episode. The end can be a success or a failure. If the player fails, the episode will have to be done once more. If the player succeeds, the right to the next episode will be granted. And that's all for now. If you found this video useful, please like it. And in the next one, we will see the character system.